like those beaver tail restaurant like just by my house, and
Yeah.
we when we're walking we can have the smell, and it's like we haven't been. I'm like,
No, it's
I had the
enticing
beaver
though.
tails like years ago, but it's like you said, I could not eat for a week if I'm having that. Like,
Yeah.
how is there a lineup
I
every
I
day
think
at
I
that
think
store?
I just think it's cruel because it's on the canal and the canal is a long skate and it's like one at the like a kind of the beginning of it and the end. And it's
Oh
almost like they
wow.
suck you it's like they suck you in because it's like, hey, you're out, you're gonna have this Canadian experience. Have a beaver tail before you start. You're like, absolutely I will. And then like halfway after you eat it, you're like, why am I here? I still have to skate you guys are ruthless. Welcome to another episode of Toba Tonight here with Valerie Maltais. Valerie, my very first question is, how are you?
I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm good. Thank you. How about you?
I'm doing well. Like we literally just moved into our new house here. So it's like I usually have a better background than a red wall. But I figured that the red wall is somewhat symbolic because like we're gonna talk about like being on Team Canada, the Olympics. So like if it was like a blue wall, I'd be kind of like, oh, she's not gonna like that at all.
So yeah, I think the red wall is just perfect.
Okay,
I'm
well
actually at my dad's house right now, so
okay, because I was just
yeah.
about to ask you if I start putting up Detroit Red Wings pictures here, you probably wouldn't like that as much, would you?
No, I'm cheering for the Leafs.
The Leafs. Okay, well
Yeah.
I do have a Leafs jersey, but I mean I was tempted to wear it, but I was just like, what about if I wear a Leafs jersey? And then she's like, no, I don't like the Leafs. I would be like, oh man. Uh, I
I
want to
know
ask.
that the Leafs is a love and hate
Oh,
relationship, but it's
yeah,
fine.
yeah. It's like you know what they'll go to. It's like every year they'll go to the round one, and then that's when people are like, all right, here's where the real Leafs show up. And then it's like, no,
Yeah.
this year is going to be different. It's like it's not though. It's not.
Yeah, I know. I'm marrying a guy from Toronto, so he's like all about the history of the Maple Leaf. But hey, are we here to talk about the Maple Leafs, or
That's true.
we could go all night?
That's a whole different podcast. Someone will be like, he had
Yes.
her on for 60 minutes and all they talked about was Leafs. Does he know who he has on? Um, I want to ask you first to kind of really get into things of like the whole background because now I followed the Olympics, which was hard because there was like no fans in the stands pretty much, and it's just like, oh, okay, like how do the athletes get up for this? Um, that would be, I guess, my very first question for you is like over in Beijing, different from other Olympics, like how does that mindset play in? And how do you kind of stay focused? Because you're looking around, and usually when you have fans cheering you on, are yelling out like, "Come on, give it that extra push." Now it's just like nothing.
Yeah. For sure, it was quite different, like especially for an Olympic game environment. But because of COVID, I think we got 2 years of doing World Cups with no crowd, no noise in the rink. So I would say that when I did my first World Cup we actually did a World Cup bubble in Europe for in 2020 in 2021. Um, we and there was like no crowd. That was weird. That was the weirdest moment of like, wow, there's like no noise right now. And we were especially in the Netherlands where usually it's like full house, and
Yeah.
now it was like totally quiet. And obviously like we arrive at the game, and like I've experienced previously 3 Olympics experience, and like I know that when there's 15,000 people in the stands, that's the at the Olympics, that's the only place where we get that many people, and like your your um your ears are buzzing because there's just like so many noises. And obviously it was like quiet at the game, but there was some Chinese who were allowed to do a quarantine to go into the rank. And there was also more and more as the game went on, more and more Canadian. When your country was in competition, you could go and watch the event.
Okay.
So more and more there was like people when we arrived at our final for the mass start, which was the last day of the Olympics. There was quite a lot of people, but for sure it's not Olympic people. Like it's not
Yeah.
like how it is usually. Um, but I mean, like when you're doing your performance, you're so just like focused on that. So like I've experienced the Olympics, like I said before, so I knew what it was. So I didn't feel that I was missing something because I knew what it was, and now I was just there. I'm here for business, and like
Yeah.
I'm here to like I know what I have to do, and like whether there's like people here in person, I know everyone is cheering at home, so it wasn't too much of a factor that affected my performance.
Now,
Obviously,
do you find now, because like past years Olympics that you've been like partook or partaked in, like do you find that that kind of helped with your experience this time? Because I have read that like in 2014 going into Sochi, you kind of mentioned like the prior year or like the prior year's Olympics to that, you kind of felt like a little bit paralyzed with nervousness. I'm guessing now in 2022, you come home with gold, but like were you more experienced in that sense? Were you kind of like I've been here, but like obviously less crowd, so you're not worried about that. But was it more or less like, I've been here already twice. I know what I'm here for. Like you said, here for business. Was that like your mindset, like going into like the Mamba mentality?
yeah, yes, yes, and it's like for sure my experience from before helped me towards that performance, and at every Olympics that I've been, I've got lessons that it's important to understand the message and just learn from it and get better for next time. So I was in Vancouver in 2010, where it was an Olympic at home,
Yeah.
and it was crowded. I had no expectations other than I was hoping to be in the women's relay, who won the silver medal, but I wasn't part of that. I wasn't put on the ice. So for me, it was like, okay, if you want to be part of something, you got to put the work for it. And
Yeah.
then in Sochi, it was like, I've done the work, I'm ready. And that was up to 2022. That was my best games. And then in Pyeongchang in 2018, I was just like so ready, and I got injured on the first day of the Olympics, so I got disqualified my three events. So it wasn't the greatest games. And in Beijing, that's the Olympics where I was the most ready. I was like so in control. And not only because we won gold in the team pursuit, but I also did the 3K and the mass start as an individual distance. And I didn't win a medal, but I did the best performance that I had in me.
Yeah.
So it's like it's important that what I learned before, it's like define your own success of like what how are you going to be happy at the end of the day with your performance if you don't win a medal, because the games often people say like, oh, it's all about winning the medal, otherwise they're like, oh, good job anyway. You're like, what do you mean good job anyway?
Yeah.
Like it's always a little bit like that of like it's important to stand on your ground of like knowing, no, I've done the best performance at the games. In the 3000 meter I finished 12, and I was when I came back in the change room, my intention were so clear, my plan was so clear to my with my coach, with my team around me, and with my family, that like when I arrived in the change room, everyone was like, "Good job! Like you did great, you did this," and like
Yeah.
so I got like uh, the cheer up like I won my gold medal, you know.
Yeah.
So I think it's really important of defining your own success of like how do you gonna feel successful at the end of the day, because at the Olympics there's only three medals, so obviously you might not come back with a medal, so it's important to stand on your ground and just like be like I'm happy with that, you know. And obviously we won gold also in the team pursuit, and it's important to control what you can control, because I'm with two other girls. It was plus it was COVID, so it's like make sure you don't get sick, but like
Yeah.
at the end of the day, it's like I need to be sure that I don't get sick,
Yeah.
and I need to be
I'm looking
ready.
after me. Yeah.
Yeah. And like if you do yourself like on your own the good thing, I think the people around you will also like you lead by your action and not by your word. And that's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, so I want to ask you as a follow up here, because like I know 2010 we were talking about in Vancouver, it's at home. Now, like when
Yeah.
you look at star athletes, And like, for example, Michael Jordan didn't even make his high school basketball team. Turns out to be like the greatest player of all time in NBA. Like there's a lot of stories that you find like later on in life like that. Like what did you take out of where like, I'm going to use the word like they didn't play you or they didn't put you on the ice per se in Vancouver. Like, did that kind of motivate you to come back better or be like, all right, I have to make sure next time that it's not even an option. Like they just go to me. Or did you kind of take that as like, all right, like I get it. I'm still young. I have to kind of earn my spot here. But like, because in my mind, if it was in me in that situation, there's two aspects. I'd look at my age and I'd be like, okay, who did they put out? Do they want more experience? But then in the back of my mind, I'd also be thinking a little bit like egotistical and being like, well, like, goddamn, I came all this way. Like, why are you putting me here? So like,
Yeah.
what was your kind of approach?
Um, I got a little bit of both, I would say.
Nice. Okay.
But when I qualified for my first Olympics in 2010, I was just freshly 19, and I think yes, I was young. I only did two senior World Cup before qualifying for the Olympics, and in my mind, when I qualified in August 2009, and the Olympics are in February 2010.
Yeah.
In the history of short track speed skating, the women's team really always have won medals at the Olympics since they started in 1992. And so I was, before even being at the game, before like we're talking about 6 months before the Olympics, in my mind, I was like, all right, I'm on the Olympic team. I'll be a medalist in February. And
Okay.
like, that was a mistake, obviously. And I realized that only in February when I think I trained in a way of just like those 6 months, just like I got this, kind of like not learning or trying to be better, just like a little bit of I was there and like just keep doing what I was doing and just enjoying the ride. And I think like it was a good slap in the face at the Olympics, a good wake up call of like my first reaction is that I was mad at my coach, I was mad at my teammate, and then quickly I realized that like I need to point the finger at me. It's like this is my fault. Like
Yeah.
I think I screwed this up. Like I don't think I put all the effort that I needed to do in order to be on that line at the Olympics. And so I came back home and I did an interview with a journalist who was trying to make me say that I was mad at my teammate and I was mad at everyone else. And I was like, no, you know what? Like, it's fine. I think the only person that I need to be mad at it's me. And what I can say today is that I'm not gonna let my coach the doubt or the choice to put me
Yeah.
on the line or not in 2014. Valerie Maltais will be on that line in 2014. And up to that day, and then from that day, I was just like putting all of the effort that I could do. And that doesn't mean that I was finishing still all the training, because the training program is always created for your best athlete on the national team to make sure that you're always pushing that person, always pushing the athletes to get better. And I wasn't the fastest. And so it's like I needed to put on some work. And my coach explained to me that when you're doing your 75% of the training program, that's your 100%.
Yeah.
So like once you understand that, you don't get discouraged and like you have someone who's giving you feedback and taking data on you, and it's just like even though you didn't finish, it's like good job. And like
Yeah.
understanding what you need. Like there's a general program, but like we're 15 women on the team. It's like
Yeah.
it's not one plan that was working for everyone. And like I think it's something that need to be explained and need to be understand all the time, I feel, in the high performance level, because you always want to prove yourself that and prove sometime I
Yeah.
guess the other people also that what you're worth and like what you're good at. And so that's what I did at training, and I think I saw a big improvement. In 2012 I became Canadian champion for the first time, like at the senior level. And then at the world championship. 2 months later, I became vice world champion, and I did a few months later a world record in the 1,000 meter. Won my first like real senior World Cup medal, and in 2014 I finished that relay. Not only I was on the line, but I crossed the line like in that relay in Sochi, and it was just like the feeling was just amazing of like I proved to myself that I could keep a promise of like I'm gonna
Yeah.
do my best, and like like never look back, but just like always looking forward of just like this happened, it's okay. Let's look forward. Like what can I take from this, and just like kind of always move on.
Yeah, no, I agree. I kind of want to counter that with the point here where it's like, when you're talking about like a team and like each individual's performance, like, for example, if I was relating it to like hockey or soccer, it's like if I'm good at offense, but I'm not good at defense, doesn't mean that everybody on the team has to practice defense. It just means I have to work on my defense. But I like
Mhm.
how, in terms of speed skating, because there is an audience out here that's going to watch this and be like, who's this speed skater? Like, what is speed skating? It is what it is. But I want to ask you, like, there was a quote or a saying here that you went from in the process of learning and getting better, you went from getting, I guess, into the back into the front. Like you wanted to be more of the front of the pack more. Can you
Yeah.
explain that to people who maybe don't really understand what that means in speed skating? Because like I can look at it on TV and just be like, all right, I get what she's going for. But for the general audience who's like, what does she mean by that?
Well, in short track speed skating, it's a race against other skater where you need to qualify yourself in order to make it to the final and everything. Like every race is all in one day, and the goal is to always cross the line first, and or at least like one or two, depending on like the qualifying uh, aspect. But when I so what I change a little bit is like from being always at the pack and like at the back of the pack and always like kind of wait to make a move, and like in short track speed skating a lot of things can happen. Like you can have falls in front of you, you can have someone who do a bad pass, and or you could do a bad pass, and like you get disqualification more often than not. And
Yeah.
um so I started to, and like my coach was telling me, like, you're strong, just go at the front and like close to the front, and make your strategy, make the other ones react to you instead of reacting to people. And that was uh, the key point that made me start winning races.
No,
As simple as that.
yeah, yeah, no. I just wanted it to be a little bit more explained because again, sometimes with certain athletes, they'll just be like, I don't understand it. Can they break it down for me? So no, thank you for
Yeah.
that.
Okay.
I did want to think that there's two aspects here that I like that involve the number 4 because it says here, because I've got it here in the notes here, but it's like in 2022, you were the first long track speed skater that you won gold medals in both short track and long track. It's only like 4 athletes to do that in the Olympics in terms of bringing home gold. But I also look, so that's the good. The bad was almost like there's a time frame here. I think it was like 2020 or 2012. You won bronze. There's a photo finish, and then there was like another one that you win silver, I believe. But it's like you had one that you won gold, and then it's like they said that you almost won 4 medals, but one of your like in a team skate, one of your teammates had fallen down, and then you get disqualified. And I'm like, all right, so you got robbed of 4 medals, but on the other side, you're only like 4 people who have ever won short and long track. So like, I guess I want to ask you, are you more of a team player or is it individual success? Because I won't leave you dry. I'm more of an individual guy where I feel like if I lose, it's on me. If I win, all right, give me the credit. Where a team, I'm kind of like sometimes I get carried by a team and I feel like I did nothing. I did shit. So so it's almost like, yeah, great, I got this like medal, but I feel like I did nothing. But if we lose the medal, I'm also kind of like got to be a little bit humble of like, okay, that's not my problem that we lost the medal, but I can't go out and point fingers. So what are you? Are you a team player or individual is like where I'm at?
I'm definitely a team player,
Okay.
where I think Well, at first, I think I got most of my success in team event, but I
Yeah.
always did my individual event also, and I did have my success also. But being on a team, it's not only in the team pursuit in long track or in the relay in the short track, it's also on a daily basis at training also.
Yeah.
Um, when we are in competition, when we are at training first, I cannot train alone. Like on the ice, I need people to push me. I need my teammates to do the laps, to do the speed, so I can try to chase them, or when it's my turn to pull them, and just like to push each other and like in the right direction. And when we arrive in competition, you're mentioning like, oh, one of your teammate fell. It's
Yeah.
like I don't even think about that. It's like it's really a team effort of just like, yeah, we fell and
Okay.
this happened. It's really I guess it's just with years, like it's not even like something that I am forcing myself to think of. It's just like the way that I've been taught, I guess. And always like I always need the people. Like since I'm young, it's like I need teammates. I need people around me. I like to be alone. Like I
Yeah. Yeah.
like to do my own thing also. And like sometime and I have a quote of like the I don't know if it's like translate very well in English, but silence is a friend who never gonna um like give you a Trajan. No, does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah. I
Well,
can imagine it. Yeah.
oh, silence is a friend who's never gonna betray you. I think that's
Okay.
better.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's like sometimes you need to be quiet. Like those people annoy me sometimes. It's like, yes, of course. And like, do you agree all the time with people? No. And like, uh, I think it's just like something that at some point you just need to let it go a little bit of just like, I don't agree, but I don't need to say it. Like,
Yeah.
where
Okay.
is it gonna go? And I think that as a team sport, like I'm training with the like I said, like 15 women on the team in short track, it's like we don't all agree and like we argue, and it's just like sometimes it's just like if that person you don't agree with her, just don't say anything, and tomorrow you're gonna be happy to see her again, you know.
Okay. That's
So
fair. See, that would be the opposite of being on like a ball hockey or soccer team of mine, where it's like if I'm in net and I screw up, I'm literally like looking at my teammates and I'm like, all right, that's on me. But if it's like I screwed up because there's a defenseman in the way and they did and yelled out screen or you're in my way and they didn't move, then that's when I'm kind of like, why? Why didn't you listen to me? And then I'm like, Brian, don't be so harsh. And I'm just still like, I'm just trying to make everyone better. Just trying
I
to.
think I think that having like with speed skating, I think that's the thing that is beautiful. Like either in short track or long track, you have your individual event, you have your own goals where you can just like think of you, and then after
Yeah.
that you come up as a team. So I think there's a good balance of just like my performance, my success is not always depending on others. And I think it's really reassuring uh to go together, like in the team pursuit, for example. It's like I can share to Isabel or to Evany, like, oh, I feel nervous, or today I don't
Yeah.
feel good, or today I feel good, girls. And like if I say I'm feeling good, and someone's like, oh, okay, I feel not so good, but like she's nervous too. Like we're sharing like how we feel,
Yeah.
and that's a really good. It
It's a
make us feel
booster.
better. Yeah,
It's a
it
boost.
boosts
Yeah.
us.
Yeah. There you go. It's a booster. I feel like in
Yeah.
most cases, if I'm on a team and I go, I feel good, they're just still like, well, if he feels good, then we must feel like great because he's the weak link on our team. Like if the weak link on our team feels really good, we have to be very confident. And I'm just like, guys, could you whisper? Like I can hear you. You're saying it out loud.
There
uh,
we go.
Yeah. I want to ask you because, like, again, with speed skating, like, when we're younger, you pick a sport. I'll be honest, I figured I'd be a hockey player. I ended up getting into bowling, and people laugh at me for that. And I'm like, you know what? Fair, open door. But, like, tell me a little bit about how you got into speed skating. Like, was there other options on the table? Because I know, like, going through your Instagram, it seems like you like biking as well. I kind of see that with like the summer of speed skating. It's almost like, well,
Yeah.
if I can't speed skate, I'll bike. But like when you went to school and told people, like, I guess at age 6 you started, when you went to school and said, "Oh man, I'm in speed skating," were people like, "Speed skater over here"?
I learned how to skate on figure skates. I was a figure skater for a few years. So I put my first skates at 3 years old, and I started figure skating, I think, at like really figure skate, I guess,
Okay.
from 4 to 6. I did a few competitions, but at the end of the day, I was always asking my coach to do a race from one end to the ice to the other, and so I always love that competition side. Always like, oh, do you want to race me? And like, but I was on my speed skate and my dress, and I think I up to this day I always love. I already have a figure skating. Always have a place in my heart.
Yeah.
Um, but my mom saw that competitive side, and like she signed me up for speed skating when I was 6 at my hometown club. And I cried to not go on the ice, but also cried to not leave it. It was really like I loved it, like the first practice. And last year, I think my dad, for the first time, I was like, "Why you didn't tell me that before?" He said, "My strategy was like for you to go in short track and then play hockey. I wanted you to be a hockey player." And I was like, "Well, I guess I didn't. I never played hockey, and I'm really not good at it.
Yeah.
I know how to skate, but I don't know how to play with the puck."
Yeah, yeah. You'd be like the fastest skater, but then they'd be like, "Man, Marie-Philippe Poulin is always setting her up, and she's
Yeah.
there, but she never taps it in. Why is she
No, I
here?"
would not.
It's like she's keeping up with her the whole way through the ice. Like in most cases, she beats her to the end of the ice. But then it's like when she asks her to get set up, Poulin's coming to the bench going like, "What are you doing?" And she's like,
Yep.
"I can skate, I just can't finish."
She would be mad at me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. I think it's interesting because I was going to say like with speed skating, like if you're really involved in it and you talked about doing it on figure skates first, like I can imagine if we were talking to you as the figure skater, it's like when they do the programs for like dance competitions, it's literally like you're like, okay, what song is she going to dance to? It's like, oh, Mumbo number 5. Then everyone's like really excited, and then all it is you going end to end of the ice back and forth. You see the
I
scores, and like
actually
someone's like 7, and then they're like, wow, she did really well considering she didn't do no triple sow cows, no nothing, but she got 7.
like somehow I remember like my routine that I did like at this one competition, and I was dancing on the song from Beauty and the Beast that Celine Dion is singing. Well,
Okay.
back in the days we could not use the lyrics. It was just like the
Copyright?
song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was just like I was starting my routine, and like my parents have it on video. So like I need to I do a spin and I need to leave. And like
Yeah.
halfway through, I'm like, oh shit, I'm going the wrong direction. So I just break and then go the other direction. So it's like I won a silver medal, but I guess they
Yeah.
were giving medals to
Yeah.
everyone.
Yeah.
But
It's almost like if that was like on national TV and you heard commentators be like, it seems like she's lost track of what she had to do, but she
yeah,
recovered quite well, but that's going to lose marks.
yeah.
I, I,
So so yeah, I tried also like many different sport. Like uh there was only um there was only ice like a few months a year. So then I did like soccer, which I was not really good. I love to be in the water. I did swimming. I did one competition. I finished last. I was like, you know what? Competition might not be for me everywhere. And I just kept swimming, but no competition.
yeah, just to enjoy
uh,
it.
yeah, just to enjoy it. And I also did road cycling. Like I signed up for the club, and mountain biking. I don't know for what reason exactly, but I hated biking when I was young. So I was just like, I love to bike, but I don't want to be on the road. Like I love to
Okay.
be on the mountain bike, but I don't want to be in the club. Like
You're probably like a car driver's best friend where it's like, I love to bike, but I don't want to be on the road. They're like, I want more Valerie's on the road where it's literally like, we don't have to worry about her. She's not going.
yeah. But now I'm training like I'm doing like on an average like 10,000 kilometer on my road bike every year, and I just like I simply love it. Like it's like we have uh we have like training on you. Like for example, this week I got a little injury that I cannot put my skate right now, but I can do everything else. So like
Okay.
I've been biking every day, and it's just like I'll be fine. Like next
Yeah.
week, I'm just going to back on my skates. But like biking is also a really good combination with long track speed skating. So
Yeah.
it's nice that I enjoy it. Otherwise, my summer will be long.
Yeah. I want to ask you because, like, with the competitive nature, do you find that there's a time that you can like switch it on and off? Because I can imagine, like, if that's the case, that's good. But I wonder if, like, if you're at like the YMCA and you're just going for a swim, and then you see like a little kid pass you or paddle a little bit faster, in your mind, do you go like, I gotta outrace this kid. It's got to be in me, or do you just kind of be like, no, you what? I'm here to relax. That's fine. Because my mind, if anyone passes me at like ball hockey or soccer or anything, even if it's just me playing a pickup game, it just gets motored on. I'm just like, oh, you think you're better than me? It's like, all right. Like, dude, that's your nephew and he's 8. Let him like, and I'm just like, no, I got to show him who's boss.
No, I think that's probably the reason why at 32 years old, like I'm still able to be in the sport and really just simply enjoy it. I think the main reason why I still speed skate or I train every day is because I love it and I have a passion, and I have a really good, I like to call it, instead of like switch on, switch off, I
Yeah.
have a really good eco mode
Okay.
of like when I'm not competing, I'm chill. When it's time to turn it on, now my like I'm on full speed, like don't distract me. But like when I'm doing my training, like on the bike, for example, where you have like the weekend warrior like passing you like super
Yeah.
fast, um, like my boyfriend get really irritated by it. It's like, oh, I'm gonna show him. And for
Yeah.
me, I'm a little bit like, no, let him go. Like,
Yeah.
who cares?
Yeah.
You're doing your training right now. Like,
He just
so
wants to go. He just wants to go home and tell his wife or kids. He's like, that
yeah,
speed skater. I just
let
passed
him
her.
win.
I just passed her, and I'd be like, I'm better. And then just like, yeah, but Dad, she probably was just out enjoying herself, and now you're the ass who came home and bragged and beat like he beat an Olympian at what speed walking or speed biking or something, and then just they're like, yeah, but I did it, and it's like, but nobody cares.
Even had my backpack
Yeah,
on.
yeah, yeah. Come up with the excuse of like, I had extra weight and I still beat her. It's like, yeah, but she didn't even try. She's out there enjoying herself. I want to ask you kind of like the fun aspect of things. Like now, when you're not speed skating and you're not biking, what kind of things do you do like to kind of keep yourself mellow? Like, are there certain TV shows you like? Are there certain like things that you kind of do during the summer that kind of put you at ease? Because like to me, I like playing games. I like, just watching some hockey, relaxing, shooting a ball in the backyard until someone yells out, you suck. Then it kind of is like, all right, I'll go back in and get that confidence back up. But like, what kind of things do you do in the off season? Just kind of keep you mellow.
um, I like to first I'm really comfortable staying home. Like I always make sure that my house is like somewhere I like to be and make myself like really comfy. I just moved to Quebec City this summer with my fiance, so we're just like setting up our house, and that's what we've been doing. Like we didn't go anywhere this summer or after the Olympics. It was just like we moved from Calgary, Alberta to to Quebec City.
Okay.
So that was pretty busy, and but it was actually really fun of just not only move and set up your house, but also just discovering a new town. Like we both never lived. I'm from Saguenay, which is like 2 hours north of Quebec City, or and but I never lived in Quebec City, so it's really fun to just like discover a new town. So and we live like right in the old town. So this
Okay.
summer it was like so busy with just like so many tourists, and we did like a few like touristy activity in our own town. So it was just like just super fun, or just staying home watching TV show. Like we've been watching How I Met Your Mother. Like I watched it to learn
Wow.
French a
Okay.
few years ago. I never finished the show, so don't spoil me who's
Oh,
like the
okay. Okay.
mother.
Okay. I
We
won't.
both don't know.
I was gonna say, like, I actually, no joke here. I was actually gonna be like, I wonder if she watches TV, and if she does, I'm gonna see if she watches How I Met Your Mother. But then I didn't want it to sound like next time if you're like never heard of it, I'd be like, all right, X for Brian, because like it was false. But yeah, no, I won't ruin it for you. But that's a show that when I was younger, I grew up on Boy Meets World, loved Boy Meets World, and then as an adult, I kind of missed Friends. My friends were really into Friends, but I didn't get into it till it was like done and over with. And then I kind of felt bad because I was like, man, I'm kind of watching reruns, and I know there's not new episodes. But then when I got into
Mhm.
How I Met Your Mother, I was like, oh my god, this is a lot like Friends, but I can keep up with it. Like I can get excited every week when there's a new episode. And I don't know, I related to Ted. I was in like university at Carleton, and like everything that Ted was going through with relationships, I was kind of like, man, I'm like the Ted here. And then someone would be like, no, Ted's better looking. And I'd be like, okay, but can I just kind of relate to a character here? Why are you bringing me down? As long as I'm not
Yeah,
relating to Barney too much, I'm okay.
yeah, it's I think we're at season 6 right now, so
Okay. Yeah.
yeah, we're getting close.
Yeah. I
And
no, go
is
ahead.
how many season there is?
I think with How I Met Your Mother, I believe there's 9 because I believe they were close enough to Friends. Because I think Friends has 10, so I think there's 9. But like in fairness, like it feels like the 9th season. Like I'm not giving you spoilers, but it feels like it's kind of dragged out into like a long, like one episode that's dragged into like because it's
Oh,
I think
okay.
it's like at a wedding, but it's like the whole season is a wedding for the most part, and then how every person's story adds up to this wedding, and I'm just still like, oh, it's almost like writers were in the room, like, how do we clue up this series? It's like, I don't know. You didn't think that far ahead. It's like, no, we
Oh,
didn't
shit.
expect us to go this far, right?
That's good to know. That's good
Yeah,
to know.
yeah. It's always like with with certain shows, certain TV shows, like you love it, and then like when a certain character leaves, like not in this case, but if a certain character leaves or you just see the writing on the wall. Like I was a big That 70s Show fan, but then when like certain the actors started leaving, I'm like, why am I watching the next season when 3 of the main cast are just they're done? I'm like, that's 3 people that I associated with.
Mhm.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's tough. It's tough. You got to find a good like sitcom or show that you're like, okay, I'm invested, but sometimes you got to kind of separate yourself because you get too invested, then you're just going to be like the mad person on the internet, like, how dare you write off this person? They'll be like, why are you so worried? It's a show.
Yeah.
They're made up
Like,
people.
yeah, we watch like so many like just like I love my TV show where it's just like easy to watch, like you turn your brain off, but my fiance is not gonna watch it with me. It's just like me and my iPad that
Yeah.
exists. Um, Otherwise, like Seinfeld and shoot, I forget the name. Like when they are in The Office.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
uh, we rewatch all of these like episodes of just like you watch it like while you're eating and like just like yeah. And otherwise, I love to cook. Uh, I love to go in a grocery store. I love going in a new grocery store and trying to find like new things and cooking. I just love to like be in the kitchen, like have like a new cookbook and just like try new recipes.
That's fair. I mean, you know what? I might be outing myself here a little bit, and some people are like, I can't believe he's that stupid. But like, I went into a grocery store recently, and I was so used to being in Ottawa, going to pubs and getting sweet potato fries. And I remember telling my friend, like, I don't know why I didn't tell him earlier, but I was just like, I'm in Newfoundland. I was like, man, I don't go to pubs as much down here, which is the irony because Newfoundland is great for pubs. And I was like, man, I really like some sweet potato fries. He's like, you can just go into like a grocery store and McCain's has sweet potato fries. And I was like,
What?
why? And then I went to the grocery store, found them, and I was like, so you're telling me for like 6 years I haven't had sweet potato fries and I could have them the whole time? I was like, I'm
See?
happy that you told me, but I'm also mad you didn't tell me sooner because you know how much I love them.
So that's the beauty of the grocery stores.
Yeah, yeah. What's like, I guess, like in that aspect, what would be like your Canadian go-to meal? Like, I know a lot of people, like when you ask them from like the States or Australia and you mentioned poutine or poutine, they're kind of
Poutine.
like, yeah, they're kind of like, what is that? That sounds disgusting. And then they have it and they're like, where has this been? Like, what's your take number one on poutine? And what would be your Canadian go-to meal? Like, if you could have any meal in the world and it's in Canada and you're just like, gotta have it.
Um, first poutine, my rule is once a year.
Okay.
So I have my annual poutine after the season, usually, where I lived in Montreal for 12 years, and this is where my rule started, where I
Okay.
was going to that restaurant that was open like 24 hours, and I was getting the one with like chopped hot dogs and just like
Oh wow.
basic.
Okay.
And now that I moved to Calgary, that rule didn't really affect. But during the COVID, we started doing poutine like at home. We did it twice. It's like homemade. Like once we were like we had like like we fried our
Yeah.
fries and just
Yeah.
like make it like from scratch. It was amazing. And this year, I had my poutine in a stadium at a as a soccer match, and I was just like, what a waste of my annual poutine. Like he wasn't that good, and I was just like, oh no, no, I need to wait next year. But
Yeah.
I'm really good when I keep promises. Like I was just like, nope, next year, it's fine.
Well, that's good.
Yeah,
But I give you the pass. If it's not great, it's common. Like, if I go out and I love sour keys, but I don't get the sour keys I like, I just get like an off brand. I'm like, okay, those didn't count because they're not the good kind. But I like how you're like,
yeah,
it doesn't matter. I still had them, so it counts. So
yeah.
credit.
Thank you. And I would say that's something when I'm away that I miss. It's either a taco bake
Okay.
or just like a Mexican like dish that my mother-in-law is doing, and it's just like wow. And otherwise sushi. That's something that I
Oh,
often crave like when I come back home.
okay. I'm glad that these are like, post match or post game material or meals, because I can just imagine if it was just like you finish like fourth or fifth, and then instead of coming to the podium and being like, man, that's on me. You're like, listen, guys, I had a poutine before I did the race. It wasn't good. Or even worse, where you're like, man, I had a beaver tail. That's fulfilling. Like I never had a beaver tail till I went to Ottawa and skated on the canal, and I was like, what is this thing you call a beaver tail? And then they gave me one. I was just like, I don't think I can eat for like another week. I was like, what did you do?
Like I live now in Old Quebec, like I said, and there like it's really touristy, and I have like those beaver tail restaurant like just by my house, and
Yeah.
we when we're walking we can have the smell, and it's like we haven't been. I'm like
No, it's
I had the
enticing
beaver
though.
tails like years ago, but it's like you said, I could not eat for a week if I'm having that. Like how
Yeah.
is there a lineup
I
every
I
day
think
at
I
that
think
store?
I just think it's cruel because it's on the canal, and the canal is a long skate, and it's like one at the like a kind of the beginning of it and the end, and it's
Oh
almost like they
wow.
suck you. It's like they suck you in because it's like, hey, you're out, you're gonna have this Canadian experience. Have a beaver tail before you start. You're like, absolutely, I will. And then like halfway after you eat it, you're like, why am I here? I still have to skate. You guys are ruthless. It's like, how many of you
Yeah.
Canadians do this? And then there's like one Canadian that's like dressed to the nines, getting ready to go, and he's got the beaver tail already, like two or three packed because he's a veteran. He knows what the deal is. He's going to do the route and then finish up with the beaver tail to fill him up. And I'm like, you've been here before, you've done this. Awesome. It's like the friend that calls the Uber before you go out and drink because he knows the plan. But when you're new, you're like, we'll do it when we get home. And then it's like, okay, but how are we getting home? And by the time you go out and drink and then try to get the Uber, you get lucky and you drunk dial your friend and be like, pick me up. And then it's like, I'm not the Uber. So you always got to have one person who's been there before.
Yeah.
I want to ask you kind of, we'll get into a little bit of the fun aspect. I like to call this like the rapid fire aspect of it. And sometimes we put this on like social media, depending on like how well it goes. And sometimes it's just people like the fun aspect of rapid fire. I want to,
Right.
and I kind of lose control of it because I'm going with a random question generator here. So the first random question they
That's
have,
scary.
oh, it is, but I can always like, you can always tag me and be like, hey, I don't want to answer that question. And then I will embarrass myself because I'm the host. Host. It's like, it's a privilege. I want to ask for the first random question here. What is your biggest fear?
Uh, wait. I
Waiting is a good, yeah, I hate that. That's a real bad fear. No.
No, I'm really scared of lightning. I got
Really?
a friend who got struck by lightning when I was at a training camp, and since then, like, if there's thunder, it's like you'll find me like running home. Like I'm really not comfortable.
Oh, okay. See, so that's where we would not mesh because I would be the one to be like, "Come on, Val, we're going out in this thunderstorm." You'd be like, "You are so ruthless and mean." I'd be like, "Why? What's wrong?"
Yeah, no, it's impossible. Like I have a cat at home. We have two cats, but I have one that I call my thunder buddy.
Oh, okay. That's good.
Mhm.
The next random one they have here is if you weren't in speed skating, because it just says what sport, but if you weren't in speed skating, what sport do you think that you'd like to give a try or think that you'd be good at?
Um, I never tried it, but I always love that sport is diving.
Okay.
Yeah,
I would think
I'm
the easy answer, I thought the cop out answer would be like, well, if it's not speed skating, rollerblading. And I'd be like, all right, come on now.
I like to be in the warm. And like I don't I'm doing a winter sport, but I could try summer sport.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Canada has rollerblading and just be like, well, Valerie has now taken up rollerblading and she is owning her competition in that too. I'd be like, could you just not
I
share the
actually
sport?
did the Pan American game in inline speed skating
Oh,
in
really? Oh,
Toronto.
okay.
Yeah, in Toronto in 2014.
Okay. And
Yeah.
how'd you find that? Was it enjoyable or were you kind of like, I'm glad I'm sticking to speed skating?
I'm glad I stick to speed skating. But it was a really great experience. It was a summer game and it was close to the Olympics, so it was really fun to be around different sport that I'm never around. So it was a really great experience. And once again a home game also. So it was
Okay.
really nice. Yeah.
What is your biggest accomplishment to date? And you can't say this podcast because that's a cop out. No.
Mhm. I would say it's my transition from short track to long track. Not only for my performances and the success that I got winning a gold medal, but um, just what it took, not only as an athlete but as a human, what I learned from it. Because I wasn't expecting to qualify. Like I was just like, I'm going to try long track. I have no idea. I've never skated long track before, and just okay, my career might end next year. I have no plan of like going back to short track. It was like plan A or just like I'm done. And so I had to, and I found myself like really insecure of like, oh, what am I like outside of the sport? So I had to do a lot of work on myself and clinic and like meeting people to really understanding what I'm good at and what do I like other than skating in circles.
So I want to ask you this as like a follow-up question, not like a random one, just because I like where you went with that topic, but like because we had Bianca Andreescu on, and she had kind of mentioned the same thing of like, when she won the U.S. Open, and then like she's at the highest of highs. People are coming after her, more or less saying like how great she is. Like Canadian athletes are saying, okay, she's doing great. And then she kind of slides off a bit, and then she's kind of more or less saying like she had to rediscover herself. She had to go find the passion again for tennis. Like I'm looking at it as if to say, like, if you're good at this sport, like, you're still way better than a lot of us that want to play it. But like, how do you find the passion or find your way back to the sport? Like, it can't just be as easy as going to training every day and being like, because I think that gets repetitious and annoying. So how do you fall back in love with a sport?
um, it's hard like I think it's hard to really answer your specific question, but I can go like a
Yeah,
little
yeah.
bit
Like
like on
give
the
your own
side
example. Yeah, give your own
because I
example.
think
Yeah,
I never lost the passion of my sport, but I for sure like question myself of like, am I gonna last in the sport? Like
yeah,
when I transferred to long track, I was like, I still love to train. I want to do this. I want to try to be successful, but I've never uh I never done that sport. So it's like,
yeah.
what am I good at on a daily basis? I can bike, I can lift, I can run, I can like be in a skating position, but I'm doing a different sport here. And so being good at other things, but not being so good in long track at first, it was really a good like balance of like the girls and my coach would help me more on the ice, but I could help them like back on the bike and like just feel good at something else. And at some point it just like evened out a little bit. But also once I qualified on the national team in long track, I was not winning medals. So it's like, how do I feel satisfied at the end of the day? Not only like, oh, you're not winning medals. Because like I said earlier, medals, there's only three at the end of the day. And like most often than not, like if you're not winning, it's like, oh, you're okay. But
Yeah.
it's like you need to define your own success. And that's what I understood. And but most of it is like what I found of like, if I'm not a speed skater anymore, what am I? How
Yeah.
can I be successful um, if I'm not a speed skater? And I don't think I have the full answer yet because I'm still skating. But at least now I found my way, like in school, and like I can talk when I'm meeting people what I like to do after my career, and just like being more specific for myself of like, this is what I, I think I would be good at, and like try to feel like successful in something else than just like skating. So I think it brings uh, ease feeling of just like, I'm going to training because this is my choice. I love it. But if I don't succeed, it's okay. Like at the end of the day, like I'm happy in my life. And at some point it's like, this is not, and at least for me, like
Yeah.
I think like some people can maybe take bits of it, but I think like for me, like it's not the medals who's going to make me happier at the end of the day. And of course, like I want to win medals, but it's like, and I'm working every day for it, but it's like I'm training because first I love it, I want medals, but if I don't, I have other stuff too. So
Sure. What
yeah.
kind of things would you be interested in doing? Because I know like a lot of athletes like going into broadcasting, and to me, it's a double-edged sword from someone who studied, went to communication school, and wanted to be in broadcasting. When I see an ex-athlete go into broadcasting, I was just like, man, that's just my job. What are you doing? But at the same point, I understand that networks are like, well, she actually played the sport. What are you? And I'm just like, well, can I just be the talking guy and then she be the analytics person? Because like that works well. And they're like, nah. I'm just like, oh man, like why even have these programs? But like, is that something you look into, like broadcasting? If you say yes, I'll find you. No.
Yeah, exactly. No, I'm not gonna
How
make
dare
you
you? No,
mad.
no, no. Okay, good.
I'm not
Okay.
gonna make you mad tonight. It's all right. No, actually, I did study as a dietitian, and
Okay.
when I did my internship, found out that I preferred. I did maybe that class to just like for my own knowledge more than telling people how they should eat, I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah.
And so now I'm doing a certificate in psychology and human resources, like
Okay.
management a little bit. And I did the communication bachelor. So it's like I'm mixing all of that because like now being older, like I've got like a few degrees, I guess. And so what I would like to do is being in this. I'm guessing I'll be in the sport when I'm all retired. But in English, that would be like just like a sport intervention, like
Okay.
managing like probably like a sport organization, or like being on the human resources side of just like helping an organization to build themselves like towards an event or
Okay.
toward just like the organization. So I feel that it's not really clear in a sense that I know what I would like to do, but I think there's just like not a specific title, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, it's just what you're interested in. And if someone came up to you and said, "Hey, we see what you did for your education. Would you be interested in doing this? Because it actually kind of ties in everything that you've done." You'd be like, "Yes." But what is that
Yeah.
title? Yeah, you're like you'd be asking them
Like I
like,
would be
"What do you
myself,
call
probably
it?"
like manager or like coordinator or
Okay,
like director, probably like of uh
the world.
a
No.
like probably an organization, or like I would love to work with the COC, the Canadian Olympic Committee. And
Okay.
so yeah, just like being with the athletes, being with people, but maybe a little bit more in the background.
Okay, that's fair.
So yeah.
I am breathing a sigh of relief because now I don't have to worry about you entering broadcasting, and then one day I apply for a job, and they'd be like, "Actually, you won't believe it. You were top 3 in our finalists, but then Valerie just entered the room and she gets it." And I'd just be like, I'm gonna send her a wordy email.
But I gotta say that if we ask me, I would probably love to try it, but
Valerie?
that would be in French. That
Okay,
would be in
right.
French.
Okay, that's fine. Because then
You
to
don't want to
me, no,
hear
no,
my awful accent like on TV, I
no,
think.
that's fine. Your English is better than like my French would be. So that's if that
It's
was if that was the deciding factor, they'd be like, but she can speak English. Can you speak French? I'd be like, get me Valerie on the phone right now. I got a few words.
there's a few words that I need to avoid that it's like so hard to pronounce. So like
Yeah.
doing saying hair or air, it's like so
Okay.
hard to make sure that I don't miss it. Like
But I feel
confuse
like
them.
people would give you the pass because it's French, right? Like it's like if you come down here and listen to a Newfoundland sport, and then they're going like, what did he do? What is he at? And then they'd be like, Newfoundlanders would understand it, but someone like Eastern Ontario or Quebec would be like, what does he mean? What is he at? And I'd be like,
Mhm.
oh, come here. I'll tell you. I'll explain it. Valerie, I loved having you. It was a great chat.
Yeah, stay positive. Don't say too much that you suck at things.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
you're great. You're great at this. Actually, I don't know you, but you're great at this.
Oh, well, that's good. See, I will use that now for when they ask me, who do you want, Valerie or Tobin? And I'll be like, well, actually, Valerie recommended me. And he's like, she didn't really recommend you. She just said you were good. And I'd be like, but isn't that the same thing?
That's gonna do it for this episode of Tobin Tonight. Our thanks to Valerie Maltais for coming on to the show. Remember, you can find past, present, and future episodes on TobinTonight.com, Spotify, and iTunes. Follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, and leave a comment or two. For Tobin and myself, this is Jacob saying, thank you for listening, and good night.